What's up, everybody? So on this one, we'll be going over a few problems that you'll be seeing on your test for this week. So let's go ahead and get started. So here's the first one. I'm going to get my highlighter. So what is the solution to the system of equations given by the graph that represents these two equations? So if I remember correctly, when it's asking for a solution, this means intersection. So I'm going to go to my graph and I'm going to look for the intersection of the two lines. Now, I'm going to dot it right there. So that is the point 5, comma, -1. So the answer was A. Now let's look at the other answers just to see if there were distractors. 3.33, comma, 0. That's about right there. So that's not even the intersection. 2, comma, -4.33, which is about right there. So that point's nowhere near. And then no solution. Remember, anytime you have no solution, that means the lines are parallel and do not intersect. Alright, next problem. Get my highlighter. Which of the following best describes the zeros of the parabola given by this function right here? Okay, so remember, you gotta remember your vocabulary. When you see the word zeros, that means x-intercepts of the parabola. So yeah, so from here, just look for the x-intercepts. Right there, right there. Label your points. That is -2, comma, 0. That is 3, comma, 0. And then let's go find them on your answer choices. So we know that the first one is wrong because this one's wrong. And this one's wrong. 0, comma, 2. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's good. That's good. Looks like the answer is C. This one happens to have the y-intercept, which is just wrong. But if that were the y-intercept, because the y-intercept is actually 0, comma, -6. But that's wrong. Another way you could have done it is set each binomial equal to 0. Since it's asking for the zeros. And then do the additive inverse of each one. Alright, next problem. Let me get my highlighter. What is the vertex? So here's the keywords function. Now I need to look for the vertex. So the vertex is where it changes direction. So if I were to draw two little pictures, it is this point right here or this point right here. So my parabola changes direction right here, and that's the center. And so that is the point 2, comma, -3. Now I'm going to go look at my answer choice. So 0, comma, 5, that's actually the y-intercept, which is right there. It doesn't help out, so that is wrong. Next one is 0.775. That looks like about right there. That's a x-intercept, which we don't want. And then we have C, which is the correct answer. And it looks like this was a distraction. All right. Jasmine received her stimulus check for $1,200 and plans to spend $250 per week on necessary items. Lewis received his stimulus check for $1,500 and plans to spend $325 every week on food and gas. Which systems of equation best represents the relationship where M is the amount of money left and W represents the number of weeks? So, if I'm going to do this, that means that this is Y and this represents X, because as the number of weeks are changing, X is changing, the money in the bank account changes also, well, because of it. So, X is independent, Y is dependent, W is independent, M is dependent. Now that I know this, I'm going to go back and look at my problem. This sounds like a initial value. This sounds like a rate. And since it says spend, that means minus. Okay, so right here again, someone put IV next to that. And plans to spend. So again, minus. And then this is the rate. And now I got everything I need. Since I only have one rate and an initial value, I'm going to use y equals mx plus b, which is a slope intercept form. This is your rate or your slope, your rate of change. This is for your initial value or initial amount or y-intercept. So, writing the first equation that says y equals negative 250 x plus 1,200. Now, if I notice that most of them have the initial value in the front, so I could just use the commutative property to switch them around. So, if I look at my answer choices, now I'm going to go see which one's good. Now, this one's close, but it doesn't match up all the way. So that one's wrong. 1,000 minus. So that one looks good. That one looks good, so most likely this is going to be my answer. I don't know where they got this number from, so that's wrong. And then over here they have the variables switched, so that means that one's wrong. Alright, next problem. John is at Target buying video games. The store is selling the games for $29.99 for old games, $49.99 for new games. John bought 5 games for a total of $189.95. Write the system of equations that best represents this relationship, where X represents the number of old games and Y represents the number of newer games. So, going back and reading the problem, it sounds like I have 2 rates. So this is rate 1. This is the second rate. Sounds like I have a total right here. Then it sounds like I have a second total right here. Knowing this, I had to use standard form. So this is rate 1, rate 2, and then the total. Now you gotta be careful though, because you might not need to use the rates for every single one. So I'm gonna go ahead and set my totals first and my variables. So I got x plus y equals 5 and 189.95. So we know that this one is talking about money. We know that the first one's talking about number of games. So go ahead and let's look at the equations. Number of games. Old games plus new games gives me 5 games. So just by using the variables, right? The language of the variables. Number of old games plus number of new games gives me 5 games. So this equation is good to go because this one's in terms of games. Now let's talk about the next one. Old games plus new games gives me 189.95. Okay, so something sounds off because here we're talking about games and then money. So we need to change and give the rates to these so that way it can make sense and talk in terms of money. So 29.99 per the older games plus, and I'm gonna have to add some room here, 49.99 per every new game gives me $189.95. So this time we got money gives you money. So now that I got my equations written, I could go check. So looking at the first one, this one's wrong because they got the numbers in the wrong place. This is supposed to be 5 right here, so that's wrong. First equation looks weird. So they got 29.99 and 29.99, so we know that's wrong. Looking at C, x plus y equals 5, so that deserves a check. But then we look at the next one. That is wrong because we know that the old games cost $29.99, so that is wrong. So the answer is D. Alright, so now we gotta go to domain. So domain is, we know the x's, so we know that B is wrong, D is wrong. Next thing I'm gonna do is put my sign, so I know that that's a open dot, so I know I need to use a regular less than. I see a closed dot right here, so we know that's included in this set, so that's a less than or equal to. At this point, I'm going to box in my graph from left to right. So my lowest number on my domain is -9. My greatest number on the right is 4. So using my chart, so my lowest number or my least number is -9. So that means A was the answer. Alright, so this time we're dealing with range. This is the set of all the y values. So we know that B and C are wrong because they have x's. Let's go to the points. So we know that that has a open dot, so that's included in our set. So we're going to use less than or equal to. Open point at the right side, so that is a regular less than because it's not included. Now I'm going to box in my graph from my lowest y value, which is -7, to my greatest y value, which happens to be 8. Least, inequalities, variable, inequalities, greatest. My lowest number, my least number on the y was -7, less than or equal to y, and y is also less than 8. And so based off of this, my answer was D. Joshua unknowingly had a leaky faucet. The leaky faucet continuously wasted 5 gallons of water each day and costed him 2 cents per day. It was 28 days before Joshua found and repaired the leak. the total cost of the water wasted can be represented by y equals 0.02 times x, where x is the number of days. What is the domain of this situation? Alright, so first off, let's go ahead and see what so it's asking for domain, which is x. So let's go ahead and write down our variables. X is days, and y is total cost of the water. So since I know that the domain is days now, right? I'm gonna go back to my problem and see any kind of information where I see days at. So I see wasted 5 gallons of water each day. Okay. Cost them 2 cents per day. Okay. It was 28 days before Joshua found and repaired the leak. Okay. So we know that this was 28 days, and I had to start at some point, so we know our lowest number is 0. My greatest number is 28 because it flat out says it. Now, the only thing is, I could start eliminating some answers. So I know B and D are now wrong because they don't have 28 on there. And it looks like it's 28 times 0.02, which gives us 0.56. So that's not what we want. Now you got to ask yourself, days. When we talk about days and water running or leaking, is that going to be discrete or continuous? So if by discrete, that means countable. That means you could count the water that's dripping from the faucet or coming out of the faucet. Or is it going to be continuous? That means measurable. So now, I don't know about you guys, but when I turn on the faucet, it's one giant flow. So there's no real way to count all the water that's coming out. The only thing I can do is measure it. Since it's a type of measurement, we're gonna have to use inequalities to do it. Now, if it was countable, you would use brackets, or the numbers will be listed. So this is actually discrete right here, so this one is actually wrong. So our answer was A, because it is continuous. Alright, Michelle's on a road trip with her family and forgot her charger. At the start of her trip, her phone was at 100%. They are driving from Dallas to San Antonio, which is a 4.5-hour drive. Their batteries continuously decreasing by 10% per hour. The remaining battery life can be represented by y equals -10x plus 100, where x is the number of hours driven. What is the range? So first off, now that we got everything annotated, we know that this is y. We need to list our variables. So x is hours, and we know that they need to drive a maximum of 4.5, so that's our greatest. And I'm assuming that when they start driving, it's at 0, so that's going to be our least. And y is battery life. So we know that the maximum her battery is going to be is 100. So that's our greatest. Now, we could assume that our lowest battery life is going to be 0 because that's your phone dying. But they didn't drive, they only drove for 4.5 hours, so that needs to come back. But let's go ahead and talk about the answer choices. A and C are wrong because those are dealing with the domain. Alright, so now that we know that, we need to figure out the lowest amount of battery life. And so we could do that by using our maximum here. So y is equal to negative 10 times 4.5 plus 100. That gives me negative 45 plus 100, which is equal to 55. So that means our lowest is going to be 55. Now we need to ask ourselves one final question. Is this going to be discrete or continuous? Now, here's a hint. It says continuous right there. So since it says continuous, we know that the answer is not going to be listed or in brackets. Those are brackets, or listed. That means we need to use the inequalities. So our answer is D.